Okay, let's get started with the vocabulary as usual. First of all, we can see our first word is coal. Coal is this black rock. You've probably seen coal before. It's a black substance dug up from the ground that can burn. You know, in our lesson 7, we just did that in this book. We talked about animals that die. You know, their remains get buried under mud, sand, and rock, and they turn into fossils. Well, that doesn't always happen, right? Sometimes, or many times, the bodies of animals and plants get buried and they get pressed together and they turn into carbon. Carbon is a type of coal, and you can burn it, right? So actually, coal is the remains of dead animals and plants that died a long, long time ago, okay? So it formed into like a rock. It's a hard rock. And probably your dad or your mom, when they have an outdoor barbecue, they take little pieces of coal and they put them in the grill and then they burn them, right? Because coal burns. It burns very well. It causes a nice fire, and you can cook meat on top of coal. A lot of barbecues use coal. And if you ever hear of coal-fired barbecue, it means a barbecue that uses coal. So it's a black substance dug up from the ground that can burn. And it burns and it gives off heat, which allows you to cook things. It allows you to keep your house warm. It even was used to power steam engines a long time ago, and still today. Okay, next. Ore. Ore is, we talked about coal. Coal is like a natural resource, right? But coal is a specific type of natural resource. You use it to burn. Now, ore is similar to coal, but ore is for any kind of metal or like mineral. It's a rock or soil which you can get metal out of, ore. So what kind of metal can you get out of ore? Well, there's tin ore. So if you have like an aluminum can, for example, it's made out of tin or actually aluminum, but cans were made out of tin a long time ago. They would mine the ore and they would melt it down and they get the liquid metal. It's called tin. But it's not just tin. Many precious metals like copper, silver, gold, these are all found in ores. A lot of times, when miners dig in the ground, they don't just find, silver already made, right? The silver is in little pieces, little parts. Sometimes you can't even see it, and it's in the rock. In the rock, we call that silver ore. Maybe you don't see the silver or gold, but if you crush the rock and you mix it with chemicals, you can pull the silver, gold, or copper out of the rock, and then it becomes an ingot. It becomes pure copper or pure silver or pure gold. It's not an ore anymore. It's the actual metal. But it comes from ore. It comes from the ground, and we call that ore. Rock or soil, you can get metal out of it. Okay. Okay, next. Reduce. Reduce means to make something smaller in amount or size, right? If you have a candy jar in your home, right? You eat the candy every day. Well, the amount of candy reduces, right? It gets smaller and smaller every day until your mom buys more. But be careful, don't eat too much candy. Okay, but anyway, reduce means to make something smaller in amount or size. Okay, next. Use up. If you use all of something, so there's nothing left, you used it all up. If you have a printer at home and you have some paper, right? Every day you might print 1 or 2 pieces of paper, pages of something, maybe your homework, maybe, something you have to read, and you print those pages. Well, after a while, the amount of paper is reduced every day until it's all gone. The paper is used up. So the paper is all used up, or the paper is used up. You don't have to say all used up. Some people do, but just say the paper is all used up. When we talk about resources, it's very common to talk about used up. All the coal is used up. All the ore in this mine is used up. It's gone. We used it all. We used all of it, so there's no more left. Okay, good. Next, we have replace. To replace means to provide a new thing instead of something that was broken, stolen, or lost. But it also means, in this case, in the picture, we can see a forest. And it looks like people have come and they cut down the trees to get wood to build houses and other things. Now, you can replace those trees by growing new trees. And we see this in many parts of the world, especially there are many companies that are called logging companies. Logging, L-O-G. Why? Because log, this is a log here. That's a log. And this is another log here. So those are called logs. So a logging company is a company that cuts trees for the logs, sends them to a factory. They make wood or paper out of them, and then we use those products in our everyday life. But the logging companies, they have to be smart, right? They don't want to go out of business. So they'll plant new trees in this area. The new trees will grow into bigger trees, and then, 20 years later, 30 years later, they'll come and cut those trees down. So they have to think really far ahead in the future. So, to replace, to provide a new one instead of something broken, lost, or stolen. Okay, next. Supply. Supply is the amount of something that you have. Remember I gave you the example about the paper and a printer, right? That amount of paper, that is your paper supply. That is how much paper you have. So the supply is how much of something you have. So whether it's paper, whether it's ore, whether it's trees, whether it's coal, whatever, how much is there? That is your supply. If you have a big supply, you have a lot of it. If you have a small supply, you only have a little bit of it. You will use it up quickly if it's small. Okay, so now we have a video showing supply, and it's kind of a long story, but I'll get to supply. What we can see here are many machines in a field. What are these machines? They're called wind turbines. And what are those things that are turning around? Those are called propellers. So I'm teaching you a couple new vocabulary terms. Look how high they are. Look at how small the cars are over there. Wow, these things are really high up there. But they're high because they catch the wind. The wind is stronger. The higher you get off the ground, the stronger the wind is. So you want to put your propellers, I told you propeller. This is a propeller. This part here, that's the part that turns. When the wind hits the propeller, it makes it turn. Now on an airplane, a propeller airplane, there's an engine that makes the propeller turn, and the propeller makes the wind, it pushes the plane forward in the wind, in the air, and that allows it to take off. We don't have propeller airplanes now, we have jet airplanes. But this is the opposite. There's no engine making the propeller turn, it's the wind that makes the propeller turn. Now here we have a turbine. And you can call the whole thing, well that's a stand, this is called a wind turbine. Now a turbine is a machine that turns the energy. The motion of the propeller creates energy, and the turbine changes that the movement, that energy of moving, it turns it into a different type of energy that we call electricity. Of course, everybody's familiar with electricity. So when you think about it, these wind turbines, they are using the supply of wind. Now, wind is always there, right? So supply, here we have an endless supply, supply of. Yeah, this pen sometimes misses. Supply, there we go. And P. Okay, so endless means it does not end. It's always there. Endless supply. So if you have something that can never be used up, right? It's an endless supply. When you think about it, the wind will always be there. The wind keeps moving. So it is an endless supply of energy. Great. Okay. Well, that's our vocabulary for this lesson. Let's move on to the main ideas.
Lesson 8. Different types of natural resources. Coal. A black substance dug up from the ground that can burn. Ore. Rock or soil which you can get metal out of. Reduce. To make something smaller in amount or size. Use up. To use all of something so that there is none left. Replace. To provide a new one instead of something broken, stolen, or lost. Supply. An amount of something that you have.